is no smartphone or iPad or tablet until 14. No social media till 16. We're going to be taking away the screens. We're not going to be letting 2, 3, 4, 7-year-olds to be raised just on an iPad. Let them play. We have to give them a fun childhood.
Hang on a minute. Am I just turning into my mum and dad and moaning about rock and roll being played too loud in the bedroom? Because there's always that. But this is genuinely different.
Yeah, that's right. They are right that many of the features going on now are just what happened with television and radio and comic books and even bicycles. Any new technology is going to arouse suspicion from the older folk. Here's how we know it's different. One of the most obvious ways is that the kids themselves say it. When you and I were kids, if they surveyed us and said, do you wish television was never invented? You would have said, hell no, we love television. Gen Z, especially older Gen Z, they have such deep regret. They say they're not going to raise their kids with these phones. They wish they had not gotten them so early. So you talk to the kids who went through this and are now young adults, you almost never hear anyone say, oh, I wish my mom had given me a phone when I was younger. A lot of them say, oh, God, I wish they had waited. They see the damage. That's the first thing. Gen Z is with us on saying this is wrecking them.
I guess it's time for our next guest. Vassos, over to you.
Our next guest is officially one of the world's top thinkers, and he's been thinking his way to happy up our kids. His new book, The Anxious Generation, is out now in paperback, so please welcome wisdom that comes from a great Jonathan Haidt.
All right, Jonathan, how are you?
Very, very well. How fun to be back with you. I'm just instantly up and more energetic sitting down here with you.
All right, question number one. How's the spiritual degradation of tech frazzle since we last talked, Professor?
The spiritual degradation. So, a life, when you pass your life or your childhood just scrolling, it is degrading. And the amazing thing is that since my book came out, it's like people all over the world are looking at it saying whoa, yeah, this is happening to me. Adults are realizing this is happening to me. So I think while things are in a way getting worse and worse, but the awareness is amazing and the action is starting. People are taking action all around the world.
So what are the sharpest arrows from the quiver of your book?
The sharpest arrows are, the clearest way that people are acting right away is phone-free schools. And this is transformative. Since most of our kids say that they are online almost all the time, almost constantly, phone-free schools give them 6 or 7 hours a day where they're actually flirting and talking with each other or the teacher. Well, not flirting with the teacher, I hope, but but it
depends what year they're in.
So phone-free schools has been the big surprise because this is the most important thing you can do. It costs nothing. It's bipartisan, and that's taking off around the United States, here in Britain, and around the world. That's the main quick cause of action.
Okay, and that's what you wanted. There were 2 things, weren't there? There was that you wanted.
Yeah, so actually there's 4 things. There's 4 norms that if we do these, we roll back the phone-based childhood.
Right.
The first is no smartphone or iPad or tablet until 14. Don't give your kid their own until they're 14. No social media till 16. And here we need government help. We do need laws to raise the age to 16, as Australia has done. The third is phone-free schools, which is just magnificent. It's happening. And wherever it's done, they always say the same thing. We hear laughter in the hallways again. And then the fourth is far more independence, free play, and responsibility in the real world. Because if we're going to be taking away the screens, we're not going to be letting 2, 3, 4, 7-year-olds to be raised just on an iPad. Let them play. We have to give them a fun childhood.
And that'll be a natural consequence of the other 3, I suppose.
Not necessarily, because at least parents in the US, and I think the UK, are so paranoid. They're so afraid to let their kids out.
Yeah.
So this was actually the hardest of the 4 to implement.
Yeah, it's funny because your story sort of started with that, didn't it?
Yeah.
The loss of the latchkey kid, almost.
That's right. My previous book was The Coddling of the American Mind, and it was about how we're overprotecting our kids. We're not letting them have the kinds of risk-taking, small setbacks, exclusion that it takes to become a competent, strong adult.
So out of the 4 things that if there were 4 pilot episodes in pilot season over in America, the one that it would have a bidding war would be the schools thing, wouldn't it? Because that's the one that has caught light. Is that because it's the easiest? Is it because it's macro and it has the most effect?
It's that, plus it's the one where everybody who was responsible for implementing it really wanted to do it already. So the teachers hate the phones. Can you imagine if you were a teacher? I mean, you and I are roughly similar age, I think. When we were kids, imagine if they said, yeah, you can bring in your TV to class. You can bring in your VCR. You can bring in your harmonica.
That's so
bring
funny.
everything in. Play on it during class. I'll try to teach you math. And guess what? The scores are going to drop. And the scores around the world are literally dropping since 2012, not since COVID.
Yeah, no, so tell us about the COVID thing, because there's a COVID myth, isn't there?
Oh, my God, yes. So COVID certainly made everything worse. And we really began to notice the deep level of illness and dysfunction in kids as COVID receded. But what I've been doing, so I started this in 2019, and I was getting all the graphs together from the US and the UK showing something happened around 2012, 2013. All the graphs start going up, depression, anxiety, especially in girls. And then you get to COVID, and yeah, it gets a little worse. But this was not caused by COVID. This was caused by taking away childhood, putting kids on screens, depriving them of experience, and then COVID comes along and we say, how about no more school? How about you spend all day on a screen? So this was not caused by COVID. This was caused by the gigantic transformation of the zone of childhood between 2010 and 2015, when we took kids off of flip phones, or brick phones, as you say, which were just used to call and text your friends, and we gave them a supercomputer by which 1 million companies can get to them and interrupt them and hook them.
So the dream that was sold to us, and which we were happy to buy into, is wouldn't it be great to know everything all at once? And the nightmare that became was, or is, wouldn't it be terrible and evil and unsustainable and unsurvivable to be exploited 24 hours a day?
That's right.
That's
right. No, that's a good way to put it, because it really was, it is almost like a Greek myth where a god comes down and says, hey, do you want to know everything all the time? And we're all like, yeah. And I'm sure you remember, too, the first time you used a web browser?
Yeah.
It was like, wait, how is this possible? That I type in a question?
I still
don't know. That's right.
Yeah.
So it is like a godlike power. But then, as in any Greek myth, there's the tragic after effects, one of which is, and this is all you will ever do. Yeah. You will just spend all day long on this screen.
And you won't know you're doing it.
That's right. And the other thing that we didn't realize is that while technology always makes things easier for adults, that's why we have it, Uber and Amazon, things are so easy, that's great. But for children, we don't want to make everything easy because they have to do hard things millions of times. And this is really frightening. In the book, I was writing it just as ChatGPT was coming out. The fact that now school children are using ChatGPT for everything, if technology allows them to never do hard things, they're just not going to learn anything.
Yeah, it wouldn't be unequivalent of us perhaps in the past having been given or gifted our 3-year-old children the biggest box of matches and the biggest stack of hay we could find and say, there you go, happy birthday.
Yeah,
forget the cake,
right.
Forget the candles. Fill your boots, as it were.
That's right.
Because it's the neurological equivalent of that.
Yeah, that's right.
Melting the brain.
Yeah, that's right. It's as though, it's as if we made the entire world out of candy. But it's not just candy. It's at every spot, there's some sort of a genie that looks at your child and looks in their brain and says, what is the thing that they most want? For this kid, it's fried chicken right now. Here's fried chicken. Yeah. So the algorithms are so powerful in channeling exactly the thing that's most powerful to your kid. When you and I were kids, there were stupid TV shows on and they were entertaining, but they couldn't hook you, they couldn't addict you, they couldn't train you in the way that an algorithm with a stimulus response mechanism can do.
Yeah, which is so far ahead of you. It's not one step ahead of you, it's all the steps. It's the steps that haven't even been invented ahead of you as well.
That's right. We can't compete with them. Our kids can't compete with them.
Right, zooming out. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out all the time thinking, hang on a minute, am I just turning into my mum and dad and moaning about rock and roll being played too loud in the bedroom? Because there's always that. But this is genuinely different.
Yeah, that's right.
So, isn't that what they all say?
Exactly. So I'm glad you raised that, because they say this is just a groundless moral panic. And they are right that many of the features going on now are just what happened with television and radio and comic books and even bicycles. Any new technology is going to arouse suspicion from the older folk. So it's incumbent on me to show that, well, while that's true, there's a rhyme, this time is different. And here's how we know it's different. One of the most obvious ways is that the kids themselves say it. When you and I were kids, if they surveyed us and say, do you wish television was never invented? We would have said, hell no, we love television. But data has been coming out. We did a survey, and a big one just came out from Pew. Gen Z, especially older Gen Z, they have such deep regret. They say they're not going to raise their kids with these phones. They wish they had not gotten them so early. So you talk to the kids who went through this and are now young adults, you almost never hear anyone say, oh, I wish my mom had given me a phone when I was younger. A lot of them say, oh, God, I wish they had waited. They see the damage. That's the first thing. Gen Z is with us on saying this is wrecking them. They point to it as the main cause of their mental illness. A second thing is that a past moral panic was spread by the media about nothing. That is, there'd be a story about a kid who read a comic book and then he hacked up his mother. Okay, and maybe it even happened once, or maybe it happened 0 times. But it spreads and then people talk about it and say, oh my God, let's take away the comic books. That's a groundless moral panic. That is not what we have now. What we have now is everybody has seen it. If not in their own kids, they've seen it in their nephews and nieces. They've seen it in the kids of their friends. They have kids who've been they know kids who've been sextorted. They have kids with eating disorders, kids who can't lift their eyes up from the screen. We see the devastation all around us.
Physically, there's a thing called tech neck now, isn't there?
Yeah, that's right. I actually have it right now. I have a pinched nerve in my neck right now. It's causing me pain.
It's funny because yesterday we were at our lovely ex-program director's leaving drinks. And it went on from 1 o'clock till 10 o'clock, not because he's an alcoholic, he actually doesn't drink anymore. It's just so everybody working different shifts could go and say goodbye to him. And at one point, pretty early on, at about 2 o'clock, there were 17 of us around this table outdoors in a pub yard down the road in Borough Market. And there wasn't a single alcoholic drink on the table. And it was so weird. And the guy behind the bar said, are you lot all right? And we hadn't even discussed it. And some had 0 beers, different kinds of 0 beers, and some had, sparkling water. And times they are definitely a changing. And we know that fewer young people are drinking alcohol, taking drugs, driving cars, able to or interested in one or the other, perhaps both, owning a place to live. So things do change, things can change. Vassos was talking before you came into the studio about I have a pair of 6.5-year-old twins, and you said, Vassos, you think Boo and Walt, my twins, might be all right because there seems to have been a visitation of a window of this sort of technological chaos and wrongdoing. But do you think that some kids are already alive who will escape it?
Oh, yes, for sure. First, tell me, were your kids raised with an iPad? In the U.S., 40% of our 2-year-olds have their own iPad. Did you give your kids a touchscreen device to just pass the time?
No, and our 12-year-old still doesn't have a phone.
Great. Okay, good. Then you're going to be okay. Because here's how your kids are going to be different. Until now, all of us with older kids, we've all heard the same thing. Dad, I'm the only one, and my daughter says this, she's 15, I'm the only one in my high school who doesn't have Snapchat. And I say, look, here's what it does. I mean, here are quotations from the company employees. We know that there's rampant sextortion. I'm not going to let you have Snapchat. So all of us with older kids have had to say, I'm sorry, but you're not going to do this. Your kids will never say that to you. They will not be the only ones who don't have a phone at age 12, 13. There'll be a bunch of other kids. My goal is that it becomes a social norm, that you don't give your kids cigarettes, you don't give your kids a smartphone or an iPad. Now, to be clear, they can watch movies on TV. Stories are good. I don't want to freak parents out and say, no screens. Anything where you're paying attention for 30 minutes or 60 minutes to a large screen and you can't interact with it, you just watch it, that's a story. Stories are good. What's bad is fragmenting time. You hand the kid an iPad, you hand the kid your old iPhone, and you say, okay, you entertain yourself. I'm going to go make dinner or do my email and texting. That's what's bad, because what that does is it teaches the kid to just jump around, to never pay attention to anything for long, to say, this isn't the most interesting thing, I'm going to switch. That's what is destroying their attention.
All right. Now, Vassos, you have also a 21-year-old and a 19-year-old. Is that right?
Yeah, so we've got a 21-year-old girl and a soon-to-be 19-year-old boy, and they were brought up in the wild west of smartphone.
Early 2010s.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we thought we were being strict. Obviously, we now know we weren't strict enough. They will both back up what you were saying about they wish they hadn't been given smartphones. Yeah. And it's very interesting what you write in the book, and I've seen it with my own eyes, because I'm like a girl and a boy, how smartphones mentally damage girls slightly differently than they do boys, but kind of equally damaging.
Can you give us the headlines of the differences, please?
Yes, no, this is very important. When I started the book, I thought it was going to be about girls and social media leading to depression and anxiety, because that's where the data is clearest. That's not so clear for boys. But what I discovered about the boys' story is that it's not primarily about social media. It's just about all the different addictions that these companies are giving them. So it starts with the video games, and then there's the porn, and then there's also vaping and tobacco, nicotine of all sorts. Every addiction makes your kid's brain more vulnerable to future addictions. And then it continues for boys with crypto investing and stock market investing. All of these things are now gamified, and sports gambling. So for boys, it's not any one thing. Video games is the biggest thing. I can't say that you shouldn't I can't say you don't let your kids play video games. They're not harmful to most kids. But so many boys are basically just on a screen all the time, and with a lot of short videos too.
And for them to play with their mates, they have to be apart.
That's right, which is so sad. You and I remember the fun, like school's out, great. Or we should go to your house or my house. Let's start there, and then we'll go out to the woods or we'll go to the store. That's the kind of childhood kids need. But instead, you have to all go home and be on your own devices.
Right now, this realm, this helping us all out to do with how smartphones are good and are bad. They are really useful. God, they're so useful. I mean,
incredibly useful tools. I love my smartphone. Yep.
This made my life a lot easier. This thing in my hand. Mm-hmm. I watched everything Julie Louis-Dreyfus has ever done last night. Mm-hmm. In bed. It was absolutely fantastic. Yeah. But all the brilliant work you're doing here, serendipitously on the day that social media firms are being told to block access to harmful content for children or face massive fines here in the UK, Ofcom can now ask a court to ban sites. New rules, which also include age verification checks, will come in for July. So thank you for that. It's all part of the same wonderful hygroscopic snowball of people doing the right things rolling down the mountain. But our gain has been religion and politics loss, because you've stopped writing books about those two things. Now they need religion needs you, and politics needs you, doesn't it?
Well, thank you. First, let me just say I really want to praise the UK for its leadership here. You had the first age-appropriate design code, thanks to Biban Kidron, a wonderful member of the House of Lords who was a protector of children. Your country is really leading. You're ahead of us. In the US, we don't really have a functioning legislature anymore. We can't really do even simple things. And so this is the first I'm hearing about this law that you just told me. This is thrilling. I know Ofcom is trying to implement all this. I would just strongly encourage all people in Britain, if you can text your kids during the school day, go to the school and say, please, go fully phone free. It has to be from the beginning of the day to the end. If any kid can text, then everyone has to check their text because they don't want to be left out. So I urge you all to do phone-free schools, to urge your members of parliament to support raising the age to 16 for social media account creation, as they did in Australia. So Australia did this world-changing thing. They said the age is going to be 16, not 13, and you companies have to enforce it. It can't be up to the parents to keep your kids off the internet. So if a big country like Britain or France were to follow and do the same thing, it's going to become a global norm very quickly. So those are the two biggest things you can do in the UK to help out the whole world.
When are you getting back to religion and politics?
I have a contract to write a book on what social media is doing to liberal democracy.
Oh, right. So you're melding the two.
And that's the book I started writing back in 2022. And I thought, I'll just do one chapter on what happened to kids. Kids went on social media and boom, they got depressed. And then we'll talk about democracy. Right. But once I wrote that first chapter, which became chapter 1 of this book, and I saw it's so many countries in the world. It's eerie. What the hell's happening? So I realized, no, I have to just write a book on what's happening to the kids. So that's what I've done, and this is going so well around the world that I who knows how much more time I have on this earth. Yeah. But if I invest the next 3 or 4 years just in this. Mm-hmm. That I think is the best thing I can do with urgent. By far.
That's it. An urgency rules at the end of the day. Okay, it's important and it's urgent. So it goes into what's Eisenhower's box of, what's it called? Eisenhower's box of priorities. What's it called, Eisenhower's? You know that one?
No, I don't.
Oh, you got to have a look at that. What's it called, Jano? The Eisenhower box is what it's called. All right,
thank you to Eisenhower. What's in the Eisenhower box?
I'll show you now. All right, let's hear it for Jonathan, please, if you don't mind. Jonathan Haidt. Paperback version of his original blockbuster is out now. The Anxious Generation. He's the best.